Hello viewers, today we're going to be cleaning an Arctic King air conditioner. This is a pretty run-of-the-mill unit. A lot of them are designed just like this one and come apart in a very similar way. There's a couple of things we have to do here. This is on backwards, so we're going to take this whole assembly off and put it on correctly. And we're going to take the housing off so we can clean the coils. I've already straightened out the condenser, so that's ready to go. So let's begin with the screws. There's quite a few of them. There's two up here on the top. And there's these little plastic washers. Sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't. If they don't come off, I take a common screwdriver and just give them a little bit of force, they'll come right off. We got another one here on the side. And turning it around, we have these two on the back, the upper two. And on this side we have one here. And those are all the same size, so there's no need to worry about keeping track of which ones went where. Okay, and then on the front we're going to have two screws on either side here at the bottom. Okay, so that's all those screws. Now this assembly here has 4 screws up at the top, and it should slide off if you take the thing out far enough so that these slides are off. It should kind of slide up, and then those can be cleaned separately. Same situation on the other side. And this bar, which is the part that's on incorrectly, this opening should face the back and this flat part should be on the front. That has 4 screws up at the top. That will release it. And we're going to need our extension on the drill to get into those. Okay, and now it looks like that should come off, and there's one more screw that has been revealed over here, which will need to come out. Okay, so that's all the screws. Now we're going to kind of pull up around the edges here, and it looks like that is free. So first we're going to get the front off, and there's usually a couple of clips up here at the top. You just kind of go along and pull those off. There may be one on the left side here that's holding them in. You kind of go in there with a splugger or a common screwdriver and release those tabs. There we go. So there's the front. Now this one has the mechanical controls, which I like for a variety of reasons. One of the nice things about it is it makes this whole front cover removable. and you can get this wet and there's no damage that's going to take place. So that's that. Now the rest of the cover should just kind of lift off like that. And sometimes this foam gets moldy. A lot of times I'll just take it off and replace it if need be. This you can kind of clean sometimes. But all this can just be cleaned with water, all the metal parts, a little bit of condenser cleaner if needed. And now we have the internals of the machine. And this one is actually quite clean still. There's not a lot of dust or mold inside of here at all. Oil could use a little bit of a cleaning, but it's not too bad. Fan is pretty clean, no mold inside there. But the condenser is very, very dirty. And this is one of the main reasons why these units fail, is because when the condenser coil gets like this and the air is not going to get through it anymore, the head pressure on the compressor will go very high, and that'll end up wearing out the compressor over time and it won't cool properly. So, unfortunately, these companies do not make these things easy to clean. And so we're going to have to figure out how to remove this this assembly here. I think what we're going to do is we're going to begin by peeling this foam piece back. So that will release this. There's probably something on the other side here. Let's see. Maybe this piece right here. Okay, so that's that chamber removed. Now we need to get this plastic piece off of here, and it looks like there's going to be 2 screws down there at the bottom. One right there, and then one on the other side. I'll get my long bits out. Okay, and I'm sure that won't be the only thing we have to do. Oh, actually maybe it is. The fan seems pretty free now. However, the other problem that we're running into now is the cord. Doesn't have enough slack. So what we're going to do now to rectify that is we're going to remove this control panel, and it looks like that's going to be done by the removal of, I don't know what that screw does. I think it's these 2 screws. There's another screw up on the front. And we'll have to pull the thermostat off of here for a moment. And let's see, is this free now. No, maybe it is this one with a screw here. Okay, there we go. So now that will come off, and then this can lift up. And it's going to be a very tight fit. Hopefully I can get this to go up just enough to be able to clear. Oh man, that's going to be really, really tight. There we go. Just barely has enough reach to do that. Now I think at this point, kind of lay that down like that. I want to pull the fan off because this is not going to be able to be worked with like this, and it's going to be, of course. Now, one of the wrenches that I have that's not working too good. Let's try this one. And this is a reverse thread nut, so it unscrews the way something would normally screw in. Okay, and hopefully this will come off of here. It did. That was very easy. Okay, and now we have 3 more screws. I can't get this on the camera too well. You can see 2 of them right there. Those 2 screws. The tripod is collapsing. Those 3 screws will remove the motor from this housing. That's not the right size bit. Whoops. Yeah, I'm going to be very careful at this stage because you don't want to bend anything inside of here. And those screws are a different size, so keep those separate. Okay, and now I have to take the other fan off too, I think. Let's see. I don't know how to make these easy anymore. I'm going to pull this wire. I'm going to pull this wire through that clip there. Now, I thought the motor would be free at this point, but it's not seeming to be so. I had to finagle with this a little bit. I got it propped up like this. It's not ideal, but it'll do for now. This is here the problem, because the air is not getting through this condenser, and if it can't condense, it won't cool. I'm going to take this thing outside and we're going to address that, and we'll clean up everything else as well. Okay, we're outside now, ready to begin cleaning. I have this sitting down there like that. I pulled that control box off to get a little more slack, and I kind of just folded that down. So, first thing we're going to do is clean the condenser. I've got some condenser cleaner over here. This is the most powerful condenser cleaner you can get, and it's going to be needed for this one. It's pretty nasty. So we're going to mix it in this this container here. Put this stuff over so we can see it better. And I'm going to dilute this about 1 to 4 condenser cleaner to water. Now we're going to fill it up first. How much water we want. You have to excuse the daintiness of this equipment. This is my mother's hose. Let's see here. I'll put this on to. That's not very useful. Okay, here we go. Fill this up. We're not going to need too much. It's a pretty small coil. That's probably even more than we needed. Let's dump a little bit out. So we got that much water in there. Go ahead and put this in there. Now let that sit for 30 seconds or so to mix in. And if you're using a sprayer like this, you want to make sure that none of the crusted stuff from the bottle gets on top of this rim here, otherwise it won't seal. Had that issue a couple times. And you probably shouldn't touch this stuff with your bare hands, but you know, whatever. Okay, so we'll put this on. Tighten this up here. And we'll pressurize it. And we're ready to begin. So I will go ahead and spray this coil down now. And I'm going to spray it from the other side too. And the coil is 2 layers thick, so you want to make sure that it penetrates through the whole thing. You don't want to go by too quickly and then, you know, find out that you're only covering the surface of it. Okay, so it's starting to foam up, and you can see it pulling out all the dirt that's in there. And this is steaming. It's a very, very powerful chemical. You definitely don't want to stand over the top of the thing while this is transpiring. Now when we rinse it, you want to spray opposing to the direction which the air goes. So the air normally flows like this, so we're going to spray like this. And you don't want to use this really thick stream of water because you can bend the coils. I kind of like to use this that spray. And I don't want to get any of this onto the electronics control board, so I'm going to prop this up with the fan. There we go. That'll keep it out. Okay. There you can see made quite a big difference on the cleanliness of the coil. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and spray it again. Just a little bit this time, because I can still see some contaminants on there. And we're also going to do the evaporator. Normally I would use a different cleaner. It's more diluted on the evaporator, but this is just a cheap unit. It's not really worth the time to make up a second batch of cleaner. So we're just going to do this. It shouldn't do anything to the styrofoam. Now we got a little bit of, looks like maybe some mold on the other side of this foam here, so we're just going to give that a little bit of a spray to clean that off. And now we're going to clean out these other parts. We'll spray this chamber to clean that up. Don't need to use a lot of cleaner at all. This cleaner goes a long way. Clean out this register here. Clean the back panel there. Everything looks good except for this. That's still got some mold on it, so we're going to spray that down again. I'll let that sit for a little longer this time. Okay, now we're going to try to deal with this fan motor. The camera don't fall over. Not this way, the fan motor, rather the fan shroud. There's really no good way to do this, I don't think. So I'm just going to kind of hold it up like this, and I'm going to have to spray it, and then all these contaminants are getting into the machine, but well, that's fine, we'll deal with it. And this doesn't really matter. You can't see this. It doesn't affect the performance of it. You know, it's kind of more a thoroughness just to clean this out. It's not necessary. The fan, however, should be cleaned for performance measures. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for a little while. And this we're just going to clean off. And a lot of that junk isn't going to come off, but I'm not worried about it. Of course, we got junk all over this coil, so we're going to have to get that off of there now. And now this keeps filling up this chamber here. Ideally, take a wet vacuum or something like that and clean it out. Last thing I want to clean is the evaporator fan, and so what we're going to do is we're going to flop this back into place somewhat. Get it enough so that I can turn it. That'll do. And we're going to spray some cleaner on here. Get it on both sides, all around there. And the fan motor is waterproof, so although I don't want to saturate it intentionally, it's not really going to get too hurt if it gets wet. And a little bit of cleaner left, so I'll just use the rest of it to try to get some more of that junk off of there. But again, that really is just a visual issue. Okay, we're going to do one final rinse and then it'll be time to take it back inside and reassemble. And nothing within that electronics board is going to get hurt if it gets wet. You just don't want to plug it in while it's still wet. Okay, now, because we have no drain hole yet, I'm going to put this back on. And this isn't really well, it's not at all a good thing to do. And I'm going to tilt it a little bit to get the water out. And never do this while it's running. Okay, now we'll go back inside and reassemble. Okay, we're back inside now, and everything has been cleaned. There's one thing left to do before we reassemble, and that is to drill in the drain hole. You don't have to do this. Some people will say you shouldn't do this. I happen to believe you should do this, so I'm going to do it. You can see here, maybe you can't see it, let's get it so that you can. On the back of the unit here we have this little cutout here where there's water pooling, and that's where I'm going to drill the hole so that the water doesn't sit in there and then eventually end up rusting the condenser. I'm very surprised how little rust is in this machine. Normally these things get covered in rust by now. You have to exercise quite a bit of caution when you do this because you don't want to cut anything or make a hole somewhere where there shouldn't be a hole. Okay, we're through. That was successful. I'm going to take a quick break to clean up the metal shards and then we'll be back on the video. Now that the hole is drilled, I take a hammer and just kind of tap around the edges on either side just to make it so that there's no shards on there. This will still probably cut your finger if you're not careful, but it won't do it nearly as badly as it would if there was a shard sticking up or something like that. Kind of disappointed with the way the coil came out. It's very stained. Air will go through it just fine, but I'm kind of surprised it didn't clean up better than that. Anyways, I don't know what happened here. This is manufacturing damage. That was like that when I opened it up, and there's really no way anything could collide with it over there. So, to begin reassembly, we're going to put the fan back on first. Here's the fan. And there's a slot on the shaft. And there's a flat slot on here. Those two need to line up. And then we'll put the bolt back on, remembering that it is reverse thread, so it's going to be what would typically be a loosening to get it to screw on. And then we'll go through with the wrench and tighten it just firm. It doesn't need to be very tight at all, because the rotation of the fan is ultimately going to tighten the nut over time. So, with that on, we're going to attempt to slide this back into place. And there's little hooks there which need to slide into that channel. The tripod is collapsed again. This channel right here. This is going to be very difficult to do because we don't have a lot of slack to work with on the wire. Okay, so it's just going to go in right like that. That hook into there. And then it should slide down. And there'll be a second pair of hooks up at the top. And that is now in place. Move this camera back. Okay, and we're going to have 2 screws to secure the fan assembly. One here, and then another one on the other side in the same place. A magnetic long bit is going to be very helpful for getting these screws in. Okay, both those screws are in. We'll check and make sure that's spinning freely, which it is. The bearings are pretty good. I believe this is a ball bearing motor, so there's really nothing that we can oil or lubricate on it. When the bearings go, they just have to be placed. But it's spinning just fine, so we're not going to worry about that. And the fan and everything is wet, but it'll dry out after a few minutes of operation, so that's no concern. Now, the next thing we're going to do is reinstall the evaporator chamber. It's a little bit dirty on the outside in some places, but on the inside where the air passes through, there's no mold at all. And that's exactly how it should be. I'm going to take a cloth to these pieces and just kind of get the residual water off of it. Again, it will dry out during operation, but I don't want to put it together dripping wet, because that's just poor practice. And this piece here will actually get wet during operation because that's up against the coil, which I think is kind of a stupid design, but you know, whatever. They don't make them like they used to. Not at all. Okay, so this is pretty good now. It's dry enough to my satisfaction for that. So this will slip on here just like this. Turn this around so you get a better view of it. Mess with the screws. Goes on like that and like that, and slides down into place. And this little piece of foam here on the other side is no longer really sticky. I'm not concerned about it. Get a little bit more of that dirt off with the cloth if it's really bothering to you. Actually, you know what? It seems like it's coming off relatively easily with the cloth, so we're going to go ahead and do that. But again, it doesn't really matter. It's on the outside of the unit. It's not passing through into your house. You're not breathing it. So I'm not going to go crazy over that part. Okay, so that sits in there like that. And then let's put the control box back into place. Done with that drill for now. A little bit of residual water in here, we'll get that out of the corner. And these shards, here's what I was talking about when you drill through it. you get shards like that, and that is nasty. If you ever drag your finger over that, you're going to have a deep tear, and that's not fun. So I always take the hammer and just kind of bang those down. Over here I'm not going to worry about it because nobody's touching that area. And this is kind of wet, so I want to dry this off a little bit anyways. Okay, and now this is going to go like this. That ultimately will bend around there to the coil. And actually I assembled this slightly wrong. Power cord needs to come out the bottom like that. Oh no, I knew that was going to happen. Completely foresaw that happening. Alright, put that over there now. And this will kind of slip into place here like this, and it's going to screw in on the front, and this will screw in there like that. Okay, so you have the clip there on the front. It sits like that, and then the power cord strain relief gets screwed in like that with those two holes there. And these two screws with the flatter heads went there and there in the front. Okay, that's the control panel into place. Now let's get some more components. Now we can fix this first. This kind of sticks into the coil like this. And this is an important thing to notate here. You want to make sure that this wire is not actually contacting the coil or otherwise too close to it, because it'll give you a false cold reading. So I like to make sure that it's kind of pulled away a little bit. This doesn't really let you do that too much, but kind of go like that, and that's going to be good enough. Before I go any further, I remembered something I wanted to check on. I want to see if the thermostat can be adjusted, because it doesn't go very cold. And years ago you used to be able to change the range of these things. I want to see if that's still the case. I have suspicions the EPA or whatever it is may have omitted that functionality, but let's see. Well, I don't see an adjusting screw on there anywhere. Well, I don't know. There is 2 screws there, but they're kind of glued. They're glued shut. So somebody definitely did not want you messing with it. Well, yeah, I don't think you can adjust it anymore. Jeez, that's disappointing. Okay, not surprised though. I kind of figured that would probably be the case. I think now is a good stopping point to test it out. Make sure everything still works. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this up. And if it's too wet to operate, the GFI thing will complain, and that'll be the end of that. But I think it'll be okay. It's working properly. I don't remember which one is fan and which one is cool. We're getting a lot more air through the condenser now, which is good. Compressor just started up. Should get cold pretty soon. Oh yeah, it's getting cold. Okay, that's definitely working. So let's finish reassembling. At this point we're ready to put the cover on. Okay, so this is going to slide on just as it slid off. And the screw holes are lining up, so that's good. And we're not going to tighten any of the screws all the way yet. I want to get them all in first, so we can be sure that they're all going to align. Oh jeez. Getting a little reckless here. I'm getting hungry. Okay, that's all the screws for the back, so we'll go ahead and tighten those up now. Alright, now we get the front. Okay, so now we have another 2 screws, I believe, on either side of the front. We have some spare parts. Those go on the fan motor. Okay, that was a 15-minute setback, but we're back to where we were, and we're ready to continue. A word of advice to people that may be starting out working on appliances: never get frustrated when you do that. It's so annoying, but it will happen. It doesn't matter how long you've been working on stuff. I've been working on small appliances for years, and every now and again I do that. It's just an annoying part of reality. The worst thing you can do is get frustrated about it, because once you're irritated, everything just takes even longer and you make even more mistakes. So I just did it again there. What happened now is I'm thinking about lunch because I'm hungry. Short screw goes on the left. Okay, so now this is what was assembled wrong initially. This is how it's supposed to go on. Side panels, they should be labeled right. This is what you see when you're looking at it from the front. So we take this centerpiece here, it goes in this canal. And this slides in here, and this goes in the bottom, and that's the side panel in place. One on the left is the same way. It's labeled. Slide it through the canal. And then the filter, which slides in here. It's I'll probably wash this out again. It's a little bit stained in some areas. Maybe I'll just replace it. And then the control knobs. Okay, and that concludes the cleaning.